afternoon garage. So today I'm going to be working on the brakes and the suspension in the rear of the car. Had some requests to do this, and unfortunately I was just kind of busy with the motor. Well, the engine turned out really good. Just about ready to put it in. So this isn't going to be too difficult for the rear. If you saw my video before where I did the front, basically going to do the same kind of thing in measuring suspension angles and where adjustment points are. Make sure you get them back to where they are so you can keep the same ride height and caster camber. But with this suspension here, it's got full adjustments for a caster camber and tow. So we should be able to get it pretty close before we get it off the lift, and I'll kind of go over that too. So I'm going to kind of include this into maybe refinishing the engine compartment area. There shouldn't be really too much to do in there. Pull down some sound deadening, and then, maybe tie up the wires and maybe do a little surface prep in there, clean it all out with that wonderful super clean of mine, and get in there and undercoat everything and replace all the bushings. Now the hard part's going to be this, is that normally on 911s you have a hole right around here. Now what that hole's for is it has a plastic cover on it so you can actually slide the torsion bar out. Well, I'm not going to be able to do that on this car because, well, whoever did the bodywork didn't add a provision for that. So I think what I'm going to have to do is make sure I get the splines disengaged on the furthermost point of the torsion bar, and I'll show you that in a bit. But anyway, let's get started. On each and every one of them, it has this lock washer, and it's actually kind of a serrated type of washer, and designed not to back out. Now we can pull this whole control arm out of here in one piece. It looks like about 34 degrees. Something like that, 34, 35 degrees. Yeah, this side looks like about 35 too, maybe 36. All right, perfect. So the torsion bar stayed in there, in where it's supposed to be. That's exactly what I wanted to have happen. Now, if I don't disturb this at all, kind of protect this area when I'm undercoating and that kind of thing, what I can do is I can just put this right back here, set this at 35 degrees, and I'm in business. So this was great. So now you just get the bushings off of here, replace the bushings, refinish this part, and boy, this side's all done. Lots of work ahead. Well, that didn't take very long. You know, I'm really happy that the torsion bar has actually stayed in there on both sides. So I'm gonna be able to put those spring plates on and, well, get the same ride height that I had before. So one thing I'm gonna talk about is shocks. So typically, you know, I have built a few suspension systems myself. And, well, there's a picture of one here. You can see where the shocks are kind of at an angle. So the positions I put these shocks in, the suspension will bottom out long before you reach the end of the shock travel. Now, I've always been told with suspension systems, what you want to have happen is you don't really want the thing to be fully extended and actually have the car hang by the shock like this. That's no good. Now, this is the strut off the front, but it kind of gives you an idea. That's just kind of welded up there. And well, what happens is if you hit this too hard and you pull this out, what can happen is you can actually ruin the valving in here and sometimes even split this weld up at the top. So you definitely don't want to hang the suspension or hang the car by just the shock. So knowing all this, I didn't really expect that I would have any problems as far as taking those shocks off and, you know, that they wouldn't be at their maximum limit, but well, that's exactly what happened. Check out what happened to me. Ooh, definitely don't do that. Yeah, that was pretty violent. That's not anything you want. So basically what I did was I learned from one side and, you know, I put the jack on it and, you know, was able to take the pressure off of it and get the shock off. And then, you know, take the spring plate and slowly rotate it downwards. Man, that was pretty violent. So it's something to watch out for. Definitely want to take the pressure off of this torsion bar assembly before you go try to take anything apart. And that involves removing that shock. So that's really all you gotta know. And I think next time, I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna rebuild most of the major components in there. I'm gonna rebuild the control arms, the spring plates, and also the CV axles. Of course, you just call them axles on a Porsche. So we're gonna be rebuilding all those. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of set those aside and then, you know, kind of tidy up the engine bay a little bit and throw the whole thing back together. It's getting kind of exciting. And hey, if you got anything out of this, please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't. Till next time.